Hello and welcome to the Rabblecast. My name is Eric Hernandez and you are listening to episode number 607. Right? Yes. I get into a bunch of different movies that are coming out for the summer of 2023. If you are listening to this by this point in time, the summer movie season has unofficially started. It usually starts around April, late April, early May at this point. So I know I talked about Guardians of the Galaxy in the past, but I figured I'd touch on some of the other movies, being that I've gotten back into the swing of things, that I really didn't get a chance to talk about these as they were being anticipated and coming out. I do go over the movies for the rest of this month in May, June, and July, and then after that, kind of things dip off a little bit. So I figured I'll just cover some of the different ones. I don't hit everything. I just hit a few things that are on my radar, a few of the trailers that I've seen, and I dip into some of them, not too deep. But I try just to give you some information here and there. Again, I'm just scratching the surface. If you get a chance to check out some of these different trailers, go on Internet Movie Database, IMDb. They have a lot more there. Check out Inside Pulse for more information, as they have different movies reviews and then previews as well. Let's see, you can check us out on... I'm trying to do this all in one shot, so I don't have to keep going back and forth. Check us out on Rabblecast.libsyn.com. We are brought to you by InsidePulse.com. You can also check us out on Facebook fan page. Send us a tweet at Rabblecast. Email us, rabblecast@gmail.com. And you can also check us out on currently Apple Podcasts and our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Rabblecast. Again, trying to find some other stuff to get in the mix, so you're not just listening to me all the time. I figured the summer movie, 2023 list was a different way to change things up, so it's not just always about current event news. I mean, let's face it, this episode kind of dates itself in about a couple weeks, so after that, some of the news is old, unless you want to go back and listen to it. I'm like, we talked about that when that movie got canceled, or whatever the case is. A writer's strike is still going on, so past this, we'll have to wait and see what some of the other movies that are going to be available going forward. Don't know how that's going to work out just yet, but we will be feeling the repercussions of that going forward. With that being said, I'm going to stop talking now so you can enjoy the episode. There's a lot that I cover. This is the longest one since I've been back so far. So pace yourself, have fun, and yeah, that's about it. I can't think of anything else. It's late, can you tell? I'm going to go have a drink. Have fun, guys. Let's get into it. For this episode, I'm not entirely sure where I'm going to start. It's been kind of a busy weekend. A busy week trying to get ready for an extended holiday weekend. So, I don't know. There was a few different subjects I wanted to cover, and I was putting off recording only because I was trying to figure out a better line of thought for the different things that I wanted to cover and talk about. But tonight's episode is brought to you by my wife, because if not for her, I probably would have delayed another night, and who knows, maybe this week might have been skipped. And something I'm really, really trying to avoid, only so that I can keep the routine going, build that muscle up again of recording, editing, and just doing this show in general. So we'll see what we can get out of this one. One of the things that I always like to talk about is movies. If you've listened to the show in the past, movies, TV shows, it's something that I always enjoy. Action, sci-fi, comedy, some romance every now and then, depending on the storyline and the actors involved. But recently, especially with the summer about to kick off, I mean, as far as the summer movie season is concerned, we're already into it. Fast 10 or Fast X, depending on how you want to refer to it as, is already in theaters. I talked about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 already, and there's a bunch of other movies that are coming out, have been out already, and are on the horizon. Not just for the movie theaters, but also for different streaming platforms as well. So I figured I'd take a look at some of the different ones. This is not to cover every single thing coming out, because let's face it, some movies are more high profile than others, and other ones, just might not be high profile or big hits, but they'll fly under the radar, and then later on when they come out and streaming especially, they find a new home. It's like if you remember the days of video rentals, Blockbuster Video and all that, movies that sometimes will come out in the theaters might not have a big box office, but become cult classics on, well, back in the day it was VHS and DVD, now streaming. So we'll see how that all pans out. I do have a preliminary list here that I found online, so I'm just going to go over a bunch of different ones. So if you don't, I probably should have positioned the mic better for this one, but I'm going to keep looking over, and I guess I can just move stuff around. Let's see here. I already talked about Guardians of the Galaxy. There's a movie called Hypnotic. Let's see, did I pull up the summary for this one? Hypnotic, 2023 American science fiction action thriller, directed by Robert Rodriguez. If you're not familiar with Mr. Rodriguez, Desperado, From Dusk Till Dawn. I know that was Quentin Tarantino. Well, it's Quentin and Rodriguez in a way. Sin City. I'm trying to remember some of the other ones off the top of my head. Robert Rodriguez is a very, very fun director. Started off with shoestring budgets, really made things work for what he had available. So let's see here. I'm getting away from the movie itself. Who co-wrote the screenplay with Max Borenstein? Plot. Here we go. Danny O'Rourke, an Austin police department detective, recalls to his therapist the abduction of his 7-year-old daughter, Minnie, which led to the dissolution of his marriage. Afterwards, he's picked up by his partner, Nix, who informs him they have received an anonymous tip-off that a safe deposit box... Wow, this is a lot more than a summary. Okay, let me see if I can paraphrase from the actual trailer itself. So, his daughter disappears, and at one point he gets this anonymous tip, and they go to the bank. When he gets to the safety deposit box, he finds a picture of his daughter. I believe it was daughter. Don't quote me on that one. But another child. And then they find out that there's this individual is using hypnotics, or at least hypnotic suggestions, to either prevent himself from being caught, or convince them to be a distraction or a shield for him in certain cases. It's a very, very interesting story from the trailer. If you get a chance to check it out, it's Ben Affleck playing the main character of, what was it, Danny O'Rourke? Danny O'Rourke. Very interesting in that respect. Ben Affleck has been in a lot of great movies. One of my favorites is Argo, the movie where they have to go and rescue a bunch of American diplomats overseas under the guise of a fake movie company. That's a different story altogether. But just an example of not only is he a great actor, but he's also become a great director as well. So to see him getting back in front of the camera again, always fun. Trying to remember some of the other ones he did recently. It's a cop-out for me to use Kevin Smith movies, because him and Kevin Smith obviously have a connection, but there's a bunch of other movies that he's worked on and been in the works with that I would love to see more of. A lot of people refer to Ben Affleck when it comes to the DC universe, Zack Snyder's Justice League. Might not be a popular take. He was not the greatest Batman in my mind, only because I think we have seen many different facets of Batman at this point, and I would love to see other takes going forward. But he is in the upcoming Flash movie, so he has a cameo before they do all the different time jumping around. So we'll see how that turns out. Hypnotic, let's see. I do believe came out already, so let me just get rid of this one. Hypnotic, let me go back. Is listed for the 12th of May. So that one should be out already. So if you have not seen the trailer for it, if you have not checked it out, find a theater near you, check it out. It should be a lot of fun. Again, sci-fi action thriller. Knights of the Zodiac. I mentioned this one only because if you're familiar with the anime Saint Seiya, apparently this is their take on this film. When I first saw the trailer in the theaters, I believe we went to go watch Mario Brothers with our oldest son, and when I saw the trailer, you see these knights run around in different armors, and obviously they refer to different gods and goddesses. And I'm like, why does this look vaguely familiar? I mean, gods and goddesses aside, but when they start going through and they start activating their armor or their power, their abilities, it's like, this looks like an anime. Sure enough, I go home, and after watching a few deep dive videos, Knights of the Zodiac came up again. I didn't realize that was one of the titles that they use for the project itself, but Saint Seiya, I used to watch bits and pieces of it here and there growing up. So I'm very interested in checking that one out. Do I have any further information? Not currently. Okay. At least I don't have it ready for the time being. So let's see. That one also came out the 12th. Then we have Fast 10. What more can I say about Vin Diesel and family? They there was a recent interview with Michelle Rodriguez on the red carpet or one of the events where they ask her, about movies and everything else, and it's something related to the MCU, and now she makes some passing comment about there's so many movies, what can you do? Well, they're so tired of it, blah blah blah. The Fast 10 movies came out in 2001. We're looking at about close to 22 years of them making a movie based of. Initially it was outlaws and racing and stealing DVD, VCR televisions combos, that now it's shifted somewhere around, was it like Fast 4, Fast 5? They became like super spies and expert fighters and hackers, and it morphed. It went from street racing and pulling off simple heists to dragging bank vaults and running down airplanes on, airstrips, people dying, people coming back, assassins coming and going, the underworld, this and that. It's just crazy where it's become, to the point where now anybody on the Fast X team or Toretto's team or family, for lack of better terms at this point, they themselves have become superheroes, more or less. Vin Diesel's character, especially of Dom Toretto, anytime he goes in to a fight or a situation, not only does he not get hurt, but he has like superhuman strength and ability, comes out with no nicks or cuts or scratches or bruises. Very rarely does anything actually hurt these guys long term. So I have not checked out Fast 10. I do want to see it in theaters. I think Fast 9 was the only one I have not seen in theaters. It's not that I didn't want to go check it out. It was just, again, unfortunately, things got tied up as far as time is concerned. So I would love to hopefully check it out and see what this one's all about. Although now I've heard, and it's no surprise, that the studio is asking them to extend the last movie into 2. So we thought we're going to end on Fast 11, Fast 12 will be the last one at this point, as far as the main storyline, because especially now they're talking about doing a spin-off female-led series. We'll see what happens with that one. And they may or may not continue Jason Statham's character of Shaw. Not Hobbs, because The Rock and Vin Diesel famously don't get along. And at this point, I don't think the character of Hobbs will be coming back anytime soon. Even though Vin Diesel did put out the invite, kind of trying to convince him to come back. But look, The Rock's got his own thing going on. I don't think he's going to be taking a handout or a deal from Vin Diesel anytime soon. So enjoy it for what it's worth. If you have gotten sick and tired of the Fast movies, it's the same thing with the Avengers movies or any superhero movies in general. Hero fatigue can become a thing, apparently. Not for me. I enjoy these movies for what they are. They're silly, they're fun, they serve to distract you from what's going on in the real world. So, go for 1.5 hours, 2 hours, whatever the case is. Once you start getting into 3-hour territory, it gets kind of bonkers, though. Let's see. Here's an interesting one that I saw, and I could not believe. Well, let's put it this way. I believe it's being made, but I couldn't believe where it's being made. So apparently they're remaking White Man Can't Jump. If you ever watched the original film with Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes, they're doing it again. New actors. I didn't pull up the names. I can look it up real fast. Let's see. Through the magic of touchpads. I just saw the trailer before sitting down to do this. I knew that they were remaking it. I didn't know where it was going to end up. But when I heard that it was going to be on Hulu, I was like, okay. Again, we're in the age of streaming platforms. A lot of these platforms making films is not unheard of. Netflix started making movies. Amazon started making projects. And then apparently Hulu is also doing different things. I know they've done series and documentaries, but full-on films, I don't think I've actually seen a Hulu original film yet. So this might be my first. Let's see here. I'm hoping I'm saying this correctly. Cinqua Walls as Kamal, and Jack Harlow as Jeremy. And they're playing up the same idea, the characters from the Wesley Snipes and Woody Harrelson movie, where one guy's out there, he's a hustler, he wants to play ball, he thinks he's hot shit. The other guy shows up and kind of like cons him, essentially, into thinking that he's not that great of a player. But then once the skills are revealed, then things start going, and then they have to join forces together to eventually go to a basketball tournament for this one big payout. And we'll see if they follow the storyline from the original one, because the original had Rosie Perez, and she was training or getting ready for an appearance on Jeopardy, and they were hoping that was gonna, pull them out of the squalor that they were living in as far as motels and everything else. And then Woody Harrelson's character owed some money to the wrong people, all that stuff. So we'll see what happens. A fresh take on it from Hulu should be very interesting at the very least. Let's see what else we got. Also I should have mentioned. Oh, losing my place. White Man Can't Jump came out in Hulu on May 19th. Let's see, what else we have here? Sanctuary, Robots. Little Mermaid from Disney came out. A lot of people were getting upset over the casting. More people got upset over some of the changing of the lyrics for some of the songs. From what I understand, the Disney live-action movie remakes are kind of hit or miss. They have been trying a little bit more, but it's a very, how do I put this? It's a very, very sensitive area, because nobody really likes it when you mess with their childhood, quote unquote. That's been something that's been mentioned quite a bit whenever remakes or reboots are made. And that's that people just feel that the original one's being tainted by a remake or something along those lines. I've come to terms with this one myself. If there's going to be a reboot or a remake, it doesn't affect the old one. In fact, it just introduces a new generation, hopefully, a new generation of fans and moviegoers to the original project, to the very least that they might go check out the original one. Then they'll have a frame of reference for both. It's kind of the same thing when you go from a book to a movie. Yeah, you're not going to get all the same level of detail. Yeah, there's going to be things omitted and added, depending on who's doing the story writing. But hopefully, it grabs the essence of the story and just expounds upon that one. That's the best way I could put it, at least the best that I could hope for in any case scenario. But it doesn't always happen. We see that quite often, where things that when they try to remake them, sometimes it's a quick cash grab and it just falls flat. And then it kind of hurts the franchise or the series overall. But sometimes you can get something really good out of it. So I don't know that I'll be watching this one just yet. It's not at the top of my list to go check out. I mean, obviously Disney Plus is around, so hopefully they'll bring it out on there, and who knows, maybe one night we'll watch it with the kids. Other than that, we'll see. What else? The Machine. This one I want to mention. This is a very awesome one. This is from Bert Kreischer. If you're not familiar with the comedian, he has a story from back when he was in college. He went on a trip with his class. If you want the full backstory, essentially, he had this adventure when he went on this trip for his Russian class in college. And how did this one go? I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I can't do the bit. I'm not going to do it justice. So if you get a chance, look up The Machine, Bert Kreischer on YouTube. There's the whole bit online. It's like a 20-minute bit roundabout. He normally closes all of his different comedy shows with it nowadays, just because it's become such a commonplace story for him. The story itself was told originally on the Joe Rogan podcast years ago. I believe it was back in 2011. And then when he first told Rogan and whoever was in the room at the time, they told him, like, is that part of your act? And he goes, no, I don't have the balls to put it on stage. And he said, that should be part of your act. That's an amazing story. To eventually he started telling the story over and over and over again, to the point where if the fans don't hear it at a show, they start to boo and get upset. They want to hear the Machine story. And that story is essentially, I'm going to try to sum this up as best I can. He's in college. He's pretty much bumming around, just doing what he wants, partying his days and nights, having fun, doing very little as far as classes are concerned. He's just doing what he wants, college days. Eventually he decides he wants to take a class in Russian, but has no clue what he's going for. In fact, he thought he was going for another language entirely. Then he realizes, oops, my mistake, and he's about to leave when the teacher says, don't leave. I need X amount of students for this class to take place. If you leave, the class itself is canceled and nobody does anything. If you stay, I'll give you a low passing grade at the very least, but just stick around and you don't have to do anything. Sold, he says. They go about the whole thing. They go on a trip over to Russia, and then some craziness ensues. Essentially what happens is while they're overseas, they have to get a chaperone everywhere they go, and that's usually people who are in the Russian mob. And at this point, he meets some of these gangsters. He decides he wants to try to impress some of them with some of the Russian that he has learned, completely flubs whatever lines he was going to say to them, and just ends up calling himself the Machine. And everybody at this point, now he's dubbed the Machine. So they want to drink and they want to party with the Machine. They want to do things with the Machine, whatever the case is. Everywhere he goes, now he's hanging out with these mafioso characters. Eventually, they end up on a train. The mob characters get involved in certain shenanigans, convince him to join in, so it pretty much leads to him robbing the train and his classmates. But at the very end of the story, when they're talking to the police and everything, everybody pretty much has heard of the Machine at this point, and so it's almost like he can't get in trouble. The premise of the movie itself is that years later, some of the characters who are family from those mob characters come back and kidnap him and take him back to Russia, and there's a reckoning for what happened back then. I heard it's very funny from the different interviews and things that he's talked about. Bert Kreischer himself, he went with a hard R as far as like the action and the comedy. So they really wanted to go back and make those funny, raunchy comedies, and hopefully that this lives up to it. I've been hearing a lot about it, not only from Kreischer, from Rogan, also on Rogan's podcast, because of everything that's going on right now between Russia and Ukraine. Sony Pictures essentially put the movie on the shelf, saying we're not going to release this right now. It's kind of a sensitive time. We don't know how it's going to be taken. Bert decided he was going to release it on Rogan's podcast against better judgment. He didn't get clearance from it at first. He apparently got in trouble for it, but now it's being released. Now it's getting a lot of notoriety, and people are like, yeah, we want to watch this. We want to check it out. And this is coming out at a great time right now, Memorial Day weekend. So if anybody gets a chance to watch it on the 26th, which is Friday, The Machine comes out. It's great, silly fun. Again, hard R comedy. And Mark Hamill plays his father, which was a great fucking pick, because you don't get to see that side of Mark Hamill that often, but to see him be a grumpy, disappointed father who goes on this adventure with Bert as he goes back to Russia. It should be interesting at the very least. And word is that if this movie does well, Bert Kreischer has a bunch of other different projects lined up at Sony, whatever division that they're using, and that they're going to keep pushing some of his ideas through. So hopefully the idea of these movies will come back, because they were talking about a lot of these old comedy movies that you can't make nowadays, just because times have changed so much. People are much more sensitive now as far as movie going, that you can't make certain jokes, you can't tackle certain premises. Tropic Thunder is one of the movies that comes up quite often. Would you want to see Robert Downey Jr. in blackface? It happened. They got away with it. But the funny thing is that he really didn't get too much backlash for them back then. They were more concerned about the handicap character that Ben Stiller played. What was it? Simple Jack. It was like a movie within a movie kind of a premise, and that got a lot more backlash than the blackface. The movie overall, Tropic Thunder, if you don't get a chance to, have not had a chance to watch it, I recommend it only because of how outlandish and crazy it is. A bunch of movie actors go out into the jungle to try to prep for a new movie, only to get stuck in this weird actual battle scenario, and so they're forced to live some of the characters that they've only played in movies. It's a very interesting one, so check it out. It's got a whole bunch of different people: Jack Black, Ben Stiller, Robert Downey Jr. I can't remember some of the other actors off the top of my head. Tom Cruise plays a movie executive, fucking over the top in a fat suit, crazy. Matthew McConaughey is one of the agents. I believe Nick Nolte is supposed to be the stunt guy. Danny McBride is also another movie tech guy. I believe he does like all the explosives and everything. It's a crazy movie. I'm not doing it justice by explaining it right here, but if you have not seen that one, check it out. If you have time to go see The Machine this weekend, Go check that one out. I might get a chance to go watch that one. Between Fast 10 and Machine, I think I might go Machine. Let's see, what else? June 2nd, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Look, again, if you've listened to this, I'm a big geek / nerd. The first Spider-Verse movie was fun. Wasn't exactly what I was expecting, but I was pleasantly surprised with what they did. I loved all the different iterations of Spider-Man, all the different versions that they're pulling into this one, especially since now they're doing the Spider-Man 2099 character played by not Pedro Pascal. I'm gonna blank on him. I can't blank on him. Let's see. I'm gonna find. Give me 1 second. Oscar Isaac. There it is. I knew it. It's the continuation of the Miles Morales storyline and all the different other Spider-Men that he meets, Spider-Man and women, depending on the timeline that they hit. It's fun to see this one play out a little bit more. The crazy over the top animation style for the first one was a lot of fun. It gave it a certain style and flavor to it, which again, I wasn't expecting, but was pleasantly surprised with it. It's something that you cannot do in live action, so they got away with a lot of cool stuff. It seems we're going to get a lot more of that, and we'll see what happens, because the original writers for the Spider-Verse came back for this one, Across the Spider-Verse, and they have a very high bar to hit, especially since Sony's still holding on to the Spider-Man rights. That's like the one thing that Marvel and Disney are like, what the fuck, man? If we can latch on to that one a little bit more, bring them back home. But Sony is doing right by these movies so far, so we'll see what happens. The live action Spider-Man movies are still a collaboration between Sony and Disney. Let's see here. Oh, The Boogeyman, a very interesting horror movie that I just saw the trailer for. It's a weird, creepy one. I think it's from the mind of Stephen King and the producers of Stranger Things. It's essentially, they talk about the thing that comes for your kids when you're not watching, when you don't pay attention. I didn't recognize any of the main actors besides there was a small appearance by David DeSmallchin as one of the therapy or patients. It seems like an interesting movie. It seems like the shadow in the darkened room that comes after you or comes to life, monsters in the closet, that kind of thing. At one point, you hear conversation between the parents and the kids, and like, oh, they're just manifesting something, their fears, whatever the case is. But no, whatever the fear it is real. At one point, two of the kids are arguing. The older sibling goes into her room, wants to be left alone. You hear a knock at the door. You assume it's the younger sibling again, trying to get her attention. But then this monster just blasts through the door. You don't get a real good look at the monster, obviously. Like with any good horror or thriller movie, they try to keep you guessing and don't show the creature or entity full on until you see the movie. And even then, you kind of hope that they don't really show it full on, because the less you see, the more your mind gets to play with it, and it gets more exciting that way. So I might check this one out. Probably not in theaters, but definitely when it comes home. In fact, I just did that recently with, what was it, Scream? I want to say Scream 7? Are we up to now? I believe so. Where they take the movie to, I believe it was New York. That's a fun one. Maybe I'll cover that one on an episode coming up soon. That was a lot of fun as well. Let's see, The Boogeyman, June 2nd, along with Spider-Man. Transformers, Rise of the Beasts. The live-action Transformers timeline is already muddied. You have the Michael Bay movies. That was Transformers 1 all the way through whatever, I think Transformers Knights of the... I can't remember the name of it now. Whatever the last movie it was, where the Mark Wahlberg's character fought back with the Transformers against the Decepticons. It was a weird movie. Anthony Hopkins, Mark Wahlberg, a couple other actors joining with the Transformers and all this craziness. The storyline is convoluted as it is, like I said. But then you had the Bumblebee movie, which was back in the 80s, which is fine. They're trying to like reset, retool the movies a little bit. Michael Bay's still a producer, not a director at this point. Now with this one, Rise of the Beast, they are introducing the Beast Wars characters Optimus Primal, Cheetor, Rhinox, Rat Trap. Probably is he? I don't remember if I saw Rat Trap in the trailer, but you're introducing a bunch of these characters from the Beast Wars along with the G1 lineup of characters. Already there's a lot of speculation as to the movie not doing so hot, only because they're playing around with some of the designs again. One of the designs in particular is a character by the name of Wheeljack, which our good friend Dan, that's his favorite Transformer. I don't remember the exact type of Lamborghini he's supposed to be, or what kind of vehicle he's supposed to be off the top of my head. Again, when I'm doing this, things just go right out the door. Jesus Christ. But his Lanza vehicle is not represented in this movie. He's like a weird VW bug van. It's an odd choice, an odd redesign for some reason, especially when we watched the Bumblebee movie, the first opening scene on Cybertron for the Bumblebee movie. You see Wheeljack, and he's very close to his G1 form. Why did they decide to retool or redesign him for this one? Kind of weird, especially with the character of Mirage looking more like Jazz. RC is there, which is great. Optimus Prime looks like Optimus Prime. Bumblebee looks like his live-action version of Bumblebee, and then they bring in some other characters as well. The villain in this one seems to be Scourge, not the Scourge from the 86 Transformers the movie, but more of the Nemesis Prime version of the character. Nemesis Prime being like the Dark Optimus, essentially. Scourge was the early name, then eventually it became Nemesis Prime. For those who are in Transformers lore. The reason I say this one kind of plays weird with the timeline, because now you have the reset Bumblebee movie and then the originals. And somewhere in between, they're supposed to meet up. And because of the way this is all being set up and written out, it's not gelling as well as some fans would like, I guess. But then again, the live action movies always get a lot of crap from the old fans, especially the G1 fans, because they are hardcore and they want their G1, and you can't touch that. Again, reboot, reimagining, resetting, whatever the case is. I've come to terms that this is a different Transformers entirely. This is not the cartoon that I grew up with. This is the new live action version. Hasbro pretty much said, look, Michael Bay, you want to make Transformers? That's fantastic. You're recommended by Steven Spielberg, so we're willing to work with you. G1 is beloved. That's ours. We'll hold on to that. We're going to keep that one close to the vest. Here is your Transformers. You can call them Michael Bay's Transformers. Have at it. Create your story. Create your world. We'll help you with licensing. We just want a new story to be told to new generations. Again, new moviegoers. Hopefully, they'll check out the old ones. They might not even like the old ones. I hear a lot of people, they go back to the G1 movies or a cartoon or movie, that they're like, what is this crap? It was horrible. It was poorly written. Yes, it was a different time. It was the 80s. What do you expect? Those are my 2 cents. Will I watch Transformers Rise of the Beasts? I may or may not make it to the theater. I may just wait for a discount movie night at my local theater and check it out then. Or just wait for it to come out in streaming, because nowadays that seems to be the way of going of things. But that would be June 9th. Let's see what else we have. Flash from DC. This is now, I believe the last 2 movies that we're getting are The Flash and Blue Beetle. That'll round out the current iteration of the DC Extended Universe. This is not specifically by Zack Snyder, but it does have touches of Zack Snyder, because they've more or less built on what came already in the previous films. Ezra Miller will be reprising his role of the Flash in this film, even though there was a bunch of legal trouble that was happening. I'm not going to get into that one here. That just was long and sordid, and a lot of restraining orders, different stuff like that. You can look it up online. It was crazy. A lot of people were expecting DC or Warner Brothers, or now Warner Brothers Discovery, to replace Ezra Miller at some point in time. But there's only so much you can do. And apparently, from what everybody's talking about, this movie's pretty good, which is something to be said for some of the DC movies that have fallen a little flat. Sometimes they're a little on the dark side comparative to the Marvel movies. I know that's apples and oranges at this point. I mean, yeah, everybody says, oh, they're just superhero movies. Aren't they all just the same? Not necessarily. They deal with different themes and different ideas, and sometimes different takes. In this case, they're redoing the Flashpoint storyline from, I believe it was early to mid-aughts. And the idea is that Barry, the Flash, wants to go back in time to save his mom from being killed. At the same time, by doing that, he changes the timeline, and now he undoes he undoes a bunch of different things that are supposed to happen, as far as certain heroes coming to the timeline, or certain heroes coming to Earth. With this being said, we now have a reintroduction of Michael Keaton's Batman from the 80s, or 89, I should say. And we get to see what he's been up to since Batman Returns, since that was the last time we saw Michael Keaton as Batman. We get a new Supergirl. In the original storyline, it's Superman that they free from a prison, who's like all emaciated and weak, and they have to help him regain his strength. This time it's a Supergirl. The lady's name is Gaia Street, I believe, Spanish actress. And so far, the costume, from what we see in the trailer, everything looks great. Michael Shannon returns as Zod from the Man of Steel movie, who at first had some reservations about it, but when he heard that Zack Snyder essentially gave him his blessing, he said, all right, fine, I'll do it. But, forgive me, but I thought my character died in that movie. Like, yeah, we're doing this whole timeline thing. And he goes, oh, okay, this is kind of interesting. So the Flash movie from early screenings apparently is really, really good. There was also a cameo that was apparently leaked recently. I don't know if it was by the director or one of the screenwriters, but a lot of people were questioning it. Why would you release that cameo information ahead of the movie? It kind of like spoils it for you, but we have to wait and see. When they screen the movie for executives, that's one thing. When they screen the movie for casual movie, like test audiences, sometimes that does, hold a little weight. And apparently test audiences have been loving it, especially when they had CinemaCon, which is the convention for all movie theater owners. They've been getting great reactions from that as well. So from this point, we have to wait and see. And that's what, June 16th at this point. I mean, if it's as good as they say, maybe, from what one of the executives from Warner Brothers Discovery said, maybe people will forget about Ezra Miller's legal troubles. Maybe they'll forget the troubled past of the DC movies, that being so disjointed and weird. But again, let's not jump to any conclusions just yet. Patience. June 16th, we'll find out some more. Elemental from Disney Pictures and Pixar Animated. Asteroid City. I want to say this is based off a comic. Let's see here. The premise: in 1955, students' parents from across the country gather for a scholarly competition, rest, recreation, comedy, drama, and romance at a junior stargazer convention held in a fictional American desert town. This one sounds very familiar. I don't know why, but this one has like a who's who of different cast. Ensemble cast includes Jason Schwartzman, Scarlett Johansson, Tom Hanks, Jeffrey Wright, Tilda Swinton, Bryan Cranston, Edward Norton, Adrian Brody, Liev Schreiber, Hope Davis, Steve Park, Rupert Friend, Maya Hawke, Steve Carell, Matt Dillon, Hong Chau, Willem Dafoe, Margot Robbie, Tony Revolori, Jake Ryan, and Jeff Goldblum. I want to say it's directed by Wes Anderson. I don't know if this one's based off of a comic. I might be thinking of just something completely different. But let's see. Let's keep going with the list. Extraction 2. Another one from a streaming platform, Netflix. If you did not get a chance to check out Chris Hemsworth in the first Extraction movie, it is a ridiculous movie as far as action and gunplay, the fight scenes, the storyline, the trust and betrayal, all to get this one individual, I believe it was a kid, out of a foreign country. Chris Hemsworth goes in, takes just punishment upon punishment, trying to get this one kid out. By the end of it, it was questionable whether his character survived. By the, reaction of the movie, as far as Netflix was concerned, it did very well. That they're like, you know what, let's try to bring this back. Let's see if we can write a good enough script to continue the story. And apparently they did it. This also comes off the news that Chris Hemsworth himself said he's going to be stepping back from acting due to some revelations. He did some kind of medical tests, and apparently he has the gene for dementia, so he's worried that he's spending a lot of this time doing movies and traveling and away from his family, that he'd rather spend his time with his family right now, because who knows, down the line, he might not have that quality of life, I guess you can say. You have to keep something in mind. When some of these actors get to do their movies, sometimes they want to do the stunts themselves. It just makes it look more realistic on screen. If they can do some of the fight scenes, some of the stunts, and I know Chris Hemsworth has trained his ass off to be Thor, let alone also just to be a presence when it comes to his movies. That being said, who knows of the amount of punishment he might have taken while doing some of these films, if he's ever gotten injured during some of the stunts, if he's ever taken any head injuries. I mean, that could also exacerbate some symptoms of dementia. Who knows, like any head trauma, essentially. Everybody's worried about that nowadays, especially with, oh my gosh, my brain sucks tonight. I can't think of it. But it's the same idea with football players and rugby players, all the different trauma and dementia and the craziness that can happen later in life, where it'll give you mood swings and depression. So they just want to make sure that that's not something that he has to deal with. So it's a smart move too. Let's face it. He's already Thor. He's part of the MCU. I'm sure he's made a bunch of money playing in those movies. Why not take a step back and relax a little bit? I'm not saying he has to quit acting. He himself just said he's taking a step back. But Extraction 1 was a lot of fun. I'm sure Extraction 2 raises the bar, especially for Netflix. So that's another one I want to check out. That will be coming out also the 16th, but on Netflix itself. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, coming out June 30th. I don't know how I feel about that one. Harrison Ford's, they're saying now, is his final portrayal of Indiana Jones in these movies. The first three were great. So Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, and The Last Crusade. All great movies, all fun and exciting. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull left something to be desired. Depending on how you feel about some of the actors in it, Shia LaBeouf especially, whether he was going to be the future of the franchise or not was up to question. That doesn't seem to be the case anymore. At one point, they were talking about possibly Chris Pratt taking it over, although there was a funny story where I guess Pratt and Harrison Ford met up, and they got into like some kind of conversation of, you know, possibly passing the torch or passing the whip in this case, and Harrison Ford more or less saying, "Look, I'm playing the character. When I die, he dies, essentially." So I don't think Harrison Ford wants to pass on the mantle of Indiana Jones to anybody else, although they have been talking about doing another TV series. I don't know if it's going to be a continuation or a reboot of the Young Indiana Jones series. Would be kind of cool. But Harrison Ford has this weird thing with some of his characters where he would rather have them killed off, especially earlier on, than the writers or creators would like. There was a story of Harrison Ford wanted the Han Solo character to die in Empire Strikes Back for Star Wars, but they decided to do the whole frozen and carbonite thing and bring him back possibly, and they just gave that one some time to breathe before they did that. But look, Harrison Ford got his wish later on in was it The Force Awakens? Oh gosh. Again, all these movies just had to blend into my head after a while. Yes, in The Force Awakens, when he reunites with Chewbacca and they find the Millennium Falcon again, and he finds his son Solo. If you have not watched The Force Awakens, the newer Star Wars trilogy, spoilers, when he meets his son Ben Solo, who has gone to the dark side and is now is fighting against the rebellion. So that whole storyline. He just, I don't know, maybe it's an artistic view that he has, but he's characters. He would rather them be killed off at a certain point than just stringing the audience along and just playing it out further and further. I don't know. It's a weird thing, but his mind is once he's done with Indiana Jones, that's it. There's no more Indiana Jones. So whether this is his last hurrah at this point, supposedly, and from the news that I heard from, I don't know, I believe it was Cannes Film Festival, they showed it to the audience there, And from what I kept hearing, he got a muted standing ovation. Did they like it? Did they not like it? Were they giving him the respect, saying, okay, this is your last one, we're just going to let you have it kind of thing? Apparently he was emotional about it, so we'll see. It's fun to see that this does get another chance to live with another iteration, and Harrison Ford does have a chance to play the character again, because I believe it was Mark Hamill who said, there's no Jedi retirement plan when it came to Star Wars. When they did those movies way back then, a lot of the different deals and contractual clauses that you can have nowadays were not implemented back then. So if they sold a t-shirt with your face on it, you really didn't get anything for it. So anything merchandising, games, stuff along this, anything ancillary will now also benefit them as well. So we'll see what happens. I'm not trying to make excuses for the way the studios act. I mean, hell, there's a strike going on, so we know the studios are guilty in of themselves at their own peril. So we'll see how that one goes. Again, that is June 30th. And then we have Insidious, the Red Door. I just saw the trailer for that one. That one looks interesting, considering the line of Insidious movies with Patrick Wilson returning for the lead role. And I believe this one is based around his son. So if you watch the Insidious movies, which I've only caught bits and pieces of it, that's another series I want to go back and watch. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Tom Cruise, who championed the return to movie theaters with Top Gun Maverick, which was, in all honesty, a fun movie. I did not get a chance to see it in theaters. I wanted to. I got to see it at home with my son. I was never a fan of the Top Gun movies, but I have to say Top Gun Maverick was a lot of fun and exciting, and it was kind of a passing of the torch in storyline. If you get a chance, check that one out. The Mission Impossible movies, if you watch, I believe it's Paramount, because yes, it's Paramount Pictures who puts them out. The string of Mission Impossible movies is ridiculous. Go back to the very first one and watch from there if you have time. The story just gets more and more crazy, and the stunts more outlandish. We know that Tom Cruise at this point is willing to do all these crazy stunts: climb a building, hold on to the outside of a plane, jump from one building to the next. In fact, the first movie with Henry Cavill, he jumps from one building to the next in the chase scene, and he lands the jump in a weird way where he shatters his ankle, but continues the stunt anyway. When they finish that shot, they find out that his ankle's fucked and he has to go to the hospital. But they kept that take, and you can see it in the movie where he goes and he's willing to put himself on the line. He is like this living superhero in a way. The only other thing I can think of is like when Jackie Chan does a movie, and if he doesn't get injured during one of his filming of his stunts or movies, he doesn't think that he did well enough. In fact, if I'm talking about Jackie Chan, I don't know if it was the first or second Legend of the Drunken Master. It's been a while now, but where his character's tossed into like an oven or a furnace, and he's crawling out on his arms and knees. The first time they did the stunt, he comes out no problem, and they call cut. But he goes, nope, got to do it again. And they said, why? He goes, I didn't get hurt. Do the stunt again. He gets tossed in as he's crawling out. He gets burned on his arms and legs, and I don't know to what extent off the top of my head, but he got injured. And at that point, he goes, all right, cool. That was a real take. That I felt that one. So Jackie Chan, who has a number of different injuries, broken arms, broken legs, sprains. I'm sure he got knocked in the head quite a few times himself, him and his stunt team. But they're willing to go out there and put their bodies in line to do the movies for people who enjoy them. Tom Cruise has become a superhero in his own right, not just in the Mission Impossible movies, and just about anything that he does, movie-wise. There was a movie called, I want to say it was Night and Day, Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz. That was a fun little like spy comedy action thriller. A lot of crazy driving stunts,